This is literally how it works every time, bro. What does it have to be? 100% of the shooters until people go, hey, a lot of this like crazy esoteric Nazi shit that exists on the internet is probably leading people to just go out and do heinous acts of. Maybe we need to, I don't know, talk to our children, fix this problem a little bit. Let's get to the mass that took place, okay? School's back. And of course, when school's back, that means another thing that is associated with schools in the United States of America is also back, which is school. Let's take a look.
This is an ABC News special report.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kira Phillips. We're coming back on the air as sources now tell us at least 2 people have been killed, at least 12 injured, and 6 victims now being treated at Children's Minneapolis Hospital following that deadly shooting at Annunciation Catholic School.
Like, this is not even a joke. Like, I'm not being unserious about this. I'm 34 years old. So it's been many, many years since I've been in school, right? So I don't know when school is in or out. And this morning's news reminded me that school was back in session. Like, I, as an American, far removed from schooling age, unironically learn about school being back, not from like back to school supply runs or whatever, even though I participated in one recently, but straight up from school shootings. It's insane.
Let's take you straight to the mayor of Minneapolis right now.
Those families are suffering immense pain right now.
Think of this as if it were your own. Every one of us needs to be wrapping our arms around these families, giving them every ounce that we can muster. These were Minneapolis families. These were American families. And the amount of pain that they are suffering right now is extraordinary. And don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. These are kids that should be learning with their friends. They should be playing on the playground. They should be able to go to school or church in peace without the fear or risk of violence, and their parents should have the same kind of assurance. These are the sort of basic assurances that every family should have, every step of the day, regardless of where they are in our country. I'm so deeply saddened, and I'm so sorry to the families that I know are suffering.
Okay, I'm skipping Jacob Fry. I don't really care what he has to say. All right, let's get the details of what took place.
Children that are at worst. Just before, I am the Minneapolis police chief. Earlier today, just before 8:30 a.m., our city experienced an unthinkable tragedy. Minneapolis police officers responded to a report of a shooting at a mass that was happening at the Annunciation Roman Catholic Church on the block behind me. This worship service was marking the first week of school for children that are attending the Annunciation Catholic School. During the mass, a gun approached on the outside, on the side of the building, and began firing a rifle through the church windows towards the children sitting in the pews at the mass. Shooting through the windows, he struck children and worshipers that were inside the building. The shooter was armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. This was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children and other people worshiping.
Bro, they got yeeted so fast. Are you kidding me? Like, your mods are gone. What's going on? You know, with conversion therapy, this wouldn't have happened. Can't handle the facts. Trans people aren't mentally well. We need to zap their brains back to normal. He already got zapped out of existence. He's gone. He got a site-wide ban already.
The sheer cruelty and cowardice of firing into a church full of children.
Yeah, it's the shooter. I don't know what the shooter's gender is or whatever, but I have seen a bunch of Groyper posting from the shooter. So of course you're gonna have a bunch of the exact same people that have the exact same worldview as the shooter, who literally pollute the same circles as the shooter, who egg on people just like that shooter to do the mass shooting that they did, to turn around and be like, no, this was a woke libtard trans person. So, you know, it's the classic David the Pee-Pee equation, right? when he went in and tried to kill Nancy Pelosi and then tried to kill Paul Pelosi. Every single person that looks exactly like that dude, who believes the exact same shit that that dude believes, who knows that dude online, probably anonymously, turned around and was like, nah, that's not one of us, dog. He's gay. He's woke and gay. That's not one of us. That's literally, it's just the method. This is the meta. This is what they do all the time.
Is absolutely incomprehensible. Police officers from the Minneapolis Police Department immediately responded, entered the church, and attempted to provide first aid and rescue some of the children that were hiding throughout the building. While other first responders came and EMS responded to rush victims to nearby hospitals.
Will it shock you when you find out that it's actually, once again, most likely another Terrorgram right-wing grooming victim? So interesting. It's another 09A, 9 angles, 716 Terrorgram situation. How? That's so shocking. I'm so shocked. Okay. Of course the dude was a groiper. What are we talking about? Yeah, another nihilistic, terminally online Nazi with incoherent politics, a love for weapons, and an obsession with Russia, Germany, esotericism, and online memes. This has been like 70% of all shooters in the past decade. Of course, are the main problem, but we got to do something about this shit too. Yeah, this is literally how it works every time, bro. What does it have to be? 100% of the shooters until people go, hey, a lot of this like crazy esoteric Nazi shit that exists on the internet is probably leading people to just go out and do heinous acts of violence. Maybe we need to, I don't know, talk to our children, fix this problem a little bit.
Young children, ages 8 and 10, were killed where they sat in the pews. Their parents have been notified. 17 other people were injured, 14 of them being children. 2 of those children are in critical condition.
By the way, remember the Terrorgram, like Nazi, white nationalist, white supremacist shooters have literally been a woman, a white woman, and a black man. Okay, so it's not even, it's even the school shooters at this point, at this stage now, as long as they're a part of that like far right coalition, doesn't necessarily have to be a white person. Okay. This is why I always say white supremacy has gotten more diverse than you even understand.
The coward who fired these shots ultimately took his own life in the rear of the church. Our hearts are broken for the families who have lost their children, for these young lives that are now fighting to recover, and for our entire community that has been so deeply traumatized by this senseless attack. We will stand together to protect our children, our schools, and our houses of worship. This deliberate act of violence is just a sign of cruelty that is beyond comprehension. Our hearts are broken for everyone that's been affected by this tragedy.
The target is unique because it's a Christian, it's a Catholic school. So get ready for the shooter was trans and the shooter was woke, and this was an anti-Christian act. After they're done talking about we got to do something about mental health when they have no interest in doing anything about mental health whatsoever. And, you know, there will be people blaming, Trump derangement syndrome. Laura Loomer is already saying it's Trump derangement syndrome. Another Trump hater who wanted to kill Donald Trump on it's for opening fire at a Catholic school in Minnesota today. We'll see how interesting how the Democrats spin this school shooting to fit their narrative to blame Trump. TDS is a straight up mental illness. 2 for 2. Even Ryan Ruth. Both of the people that were apprehended in the election cycle for either shooting Trump, like in the ear, or in the process, or tried to assassinate Trump at the golf course, were either former Trump supporters and Trump voters, or were literally active Republican Party members. Like, what are we talking about? You're both Republican. Not that it fucking matters, but like, these guys just, you know, they like Trump and then they get bored, okay? And then they're like, well, I got a gun and a proclivity towards guns, so I might as well do something with it. That's it. It reminds me of the synagogue shooting that took place, right? Under the first Trump administration. The dude was a massive Trump supporter, okay? And he went beyond Trump at a certain point and was like, you know what? Even Trump is not doing anything. about these undocumented migrants that are coming in because Jews are doing the great replacement. And that's why he went into the synagogue in Pittsburgh. He got hopped up on fumes off of being pro-Trump and being pro-Tucker Carlson, and he listened to what Tucker Carlson and Trump were saying, and he took matters into his own hands in this heinous act.
As we begin the difficult path of healing, I want the community to know this, that even in the face of such evil, the Minneapolis Police Department and all of our law enforcement partners stand with our community. We stand with these families and with this parish. We will continue to be here for you. With that, the investigation is obviously in its preliminary stages, and I will attempt to take some questions to provide further information.
Chief, what can you tell us about the suspect in this case? How old was he? Any kind of motivation?
Also, these like esoteric far-right groups are becoming increasingly undecipherable in their political worldview. It's just directionally on the far right. But sometimes they're so far right that they just like end up hating Donald Trump as well. Okay? It's kind of like Nick Fuentes, who hates Donald Trump now. Part of the reason why he hates Donald Trump is because of Israel. The other reason is because, you know, he's not deporting enough Mexicans. Okay? It's just like a literal cult. I don't know how else to describe it.
So we were looking, the question was, what can be said about it is one suspect, a sole shooter. We believe he is deceased. He is in his early 20s, does not have an extensive...
This dude was not a groyper, lol? What do you mean? How the fuck do you say this dude was not a groyper? There's images of his guns. There's images of his guns. Like they love writing shit on their guns. And the images are like 6 million Jews were not enough. Like, yeah, here. Reddit lies. Mass killers deleted this, so I'm uploading it here. Possible images of alleged Minneapolis Catholic shooters' weapons and gear. Where is your God? Get clapped. Okay? They only showed the stuff that doesn't actually directly point to the shooter being like far right. You had a bunch of insane Nazi shit on there. Writing these kinds of names also is another common factor in the terrorgram groups, where they consider these guys to be fallen angels. Like they consider mass shooters to be like heroic figures that they look up to. There's just so I've covered it before. I covered it even when we're talking about the Roblox shit. Remember? They consider them to be like martyrs. They idolize them. They call them saints. Here, Tal Hagen reports some words are censored to avoid this entire post being censored. Breivik, reference to Anders Behring Breivik, perpetrator of the 2011 Norway attacks. Anti-communist, anti-socialist, psychotic, white supremacist Anders Breivik. Breton Forever, reference to Brenton Tarrant, the Christchurch shooter. Again, insanely Islamophobic, white supremacist, the one that famously said, subscribe to PewDiePie before doing the heinous mosque attacks. Okay? Yes, Anders Breivik, you might recall, because I think Asmongold literally made his WoW username and named his WoW username after Anders Breivik back in the day, which was so insane that I initially didn't believe it, but I guess he all but confirmed it in the past. So, like a phoenix, we rise from the ashes, a symbolic, metaphoric statement of rebirth and resilience. FTW, reference to either the world or for the win. 6 million wasn't enough. Reference to anti-Semitic statement regarding the Jews. Born to shit, forced to wipe. Reference is a 2019 meme. FD or FO, I don't know what that is. Burn Israel. Saul Pace, reference. Teen shooter linked to a school threat in Colorado. Destroy HIAS, reference HIAS, Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society that assists refugees. So that's another great replacement. Jews are doing great replacement to destroy Western civilization narrative. One that you might have heard from Tucker Carlson or Donald Trump or any number of different right-wingers that say, not that Jews are responsible for it, but they say the great replacement is happening. And, you know, a lot of the Nazis actually take that and further elaborate on it in the same way that the neo-Nazi movement did in the past. Yeah, it might be look around and find out, like, not FD or FO. It might be FA and FO. Who knows? Anyway, everything that you stand for, suck on this. Where's your God? Suka, Russian profanity, means bitch. I'm the woker, baby. Why so curious? In Russian, slightly misspelled, means kill yourself. In Russian, I am a nightmare. Nuke India. The big one, fart N-word. In Russian, hate, kill yourself. He said, kill Donald Trump, rip and tear, for the children, RO2 likely a weapon or magazine designation, Timothy McVeigh reference, Cambred reference, username associated with Adam Lanza, the Sandy Hook shooter. Sorry, mom, come, pain and hate, made in the incomplete and unclear. Ha 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 ha, reference to a Joker style laugh. More than 10. You eat shit. F slur. I love you. Get clapped. Hate you. Vape good. This world. Unhappy. Emoticon. Anyway, it's just all like a litany of different dumbass, esoteric and not so esoteric memes. Shit that you can find in some of the absolute worst corners of the internet with regular frequency. Zach didn't just name the character after him. He literally swiped the exact same username Anders used when a new WoW season started. Important distinction, as this shows how much he knew about the lore. So important note. There are many instances that corroborate the existence of these online chat groups where they worship mass shooters and encourage each other to carry out atrocities. Yeah. Once again, the top of the Minneapolis church shooter's gun has the same symbol used by the 4th of July shooter Robert Crimo in his music videos and the book he published. Okay? So this kid had to have connected to Nazi Satanist sects that have been indoctrinating school shooters all over the U.S., right? Isn't this the same symbol that some of these kids use? Remember, one of the recent shooters used this symbol in a bizarre schizo video. Why would a Groyper target a Catholic school? Because some of these guys actually become anti-Christian as well. They think, dude, because first of all, they're insane. Like, what are we talking about? But if you want to understand, like, what variant of psychopathic far-right esoteric Nazism they believe in, these sorts of groups that have had tremendous impact on mass shooting incidents all around the world, not just in the United States of America, by the way, because they operate through Telegram. And on Telegram, they do this. On Telegram, they radicalize people further and further into esoteric satanic Nazism. Some of them even actually have they're white nationalists, they're Nazis, but they also have sympathies towards like the Western stereotyped version of Islam too. Like Islamic jihadism is a thing that some of these groups believe in as well. But ultimately, their goal is to kill as many people as possible and go out in this way. Nick Fuentes in America First, a Catholic movement. Lamont, oh my God, you're so stupid. Clearly, we're not just talking about him, okay? There are groups beyond that. Yeah. There are pagan Nazis, for example. There are pagan Nazis who believe that like Christianity is also a different version of like Judaism. Like Vars Vikernes comes to mind. Or not Var. No, what is his name? I'm saying it wrong. What the? Is it Var? Is Varg, not Vars. Sorry. Varg Vikernes is a guy who is famous for like killing his like band member, stabbing him to death. And Burzum from Burzum, who famously also had firebombed a bunch of churches. So there is like a lot of pagan Nordic Nazis as well. Yeah, he burned churches in Norway. Black metal reference in Hasan's chat. 13-year-old edgy me is spitting on the ground in sight of that name. Anyway, someone says, I'm confused. Is the person trans or not? I don't know. We don't know yet. I will investigate it a little bit further in a second. Let's continue.
Known criminal history. And we are looking through information left behind to try and determine some type of motive. Yeah.
How many kids attend this school? How many kids at the school?
How many children? I don't have an exact, the question was how many children at the school. There were dozens of children inside the mass at the time. I don't have an exact count. The children have been relocated into the school, which is where their families are reunifying with them.
Do we know if the shooter, other than the weapons,
Reg.
Other than the weapons, was the shooter a student, former student? Was he a former employee? Do we know that?
The question was, do we know if the shooter was a former school employee or a former student? We don't have that information.
Did he leave anything behind other than the weapon?
There's a vehicle. The question was anything left behind? There's a vehicle that we believe that the suspect used that is being searched. And we will be conducting other searches related to this inside the parking lot here.
Yep. There was some neighbors who said that the door to the church had been barricaded.
Yep.
Is that correct?
So the question was, neighbors had said that the door to the church had been barricaded. The shooter approached on one side of the church building, and on that side, at least two doors, it appears there had been like a 2x4 placed. So not all of the doors around the building, but on the side where the shooter did fire.
And on the outside.
On the outside, yes.
Were there any explosives that were found?
The question was there any explosives? There were reports of that. There were no explosives or improvised devices that we found. I do believe there was one, I guess you would call it a smoke bomb, like not an explosive, but a sort of a firework that would release smoke.
And which side of the building?
The side that is closest to us, here, on this side.
Or also at these nearby?
I don't have specific information on that I can release. Yeah, the question was, is he dead from a gunshot wound? The answer is yes. We believe he took his own life in the parking lot.
Was this outside or both inside?
The question was he shooting outside and inside? He was absolutely shooting outside of the building on the side of the church, inside through the windows. It appears he may have gone inside, but I don't believe we've located any casings inside the building. So I'm not certain if he fired also while inside. It appears, if not all, most of the shooting happened outside the building.
Any other shootings that happened in the last
So,
24 hours?
yeah, Taylor's asking, is this related to any of the other shootings? This does not appear to be related to any other shooting in the city. The question was how many rounds. I would say it's in the dozens. We don't have an exact count. There's a sidewalk on the outside as well as a grassy area. So obviously we are going through and taking our time to process the scene.
Was he firing just one weapon, like the rifle?
The question was he firing one weapon? We believe he had fired all three. He had a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol.
Chief, was it scary? Did he have any?
Were the weapons, was he lawfully carrying the weapons? I don't have that information. And I don't have any information on any significant criminal history either.
Was he dressed at all in any tactical type of gear or anything?
It appeared he had some black clothing on, his cargo type pants. I guess you could interpret that as, however you like.
All right,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, thank you for helping us to get the information out today. We have a lot
No more
more work
questions?
that needs to be done. We will return back later today to provide more details as they become available, and we'll let you know how you can know about that in the moments to come. Thank you.
Okay,
How can the public help?
that's it. Thank you.
Heart-wrenching details there out of Minneapolis. As we just listened to the mayor and the police chief, we can now confirm that
Yeah, they have I think there was a manifesto. Obviously, I can't cover it on stream. I'm not trying to get blasted. What the hell is this? Mayor defends trans community after shooting at school, saying those who direct hate towards trans people lost their sense of common humanity. Shooter has been identified as a 23-year-old Robin Westman. FBI Director Kash Patel identified them as a male. Documents from Westman requesting a name change say they identify as a female. So there's a likelihood that this shooter was definitely an esoteric Nazi, but also one that could have been trans. Okay? Which is precisely the reason why every single person that immediately rushes to say, oh, this person is trans, do a short stream on YouTube to cover it. What? Yeah, let me just end this broadcast real quick and then go on YouTube and live stream that. From the people that brought you, unlimited mass shootings, and then subsequently turning around and claiming that it's a trans person that did the shootings is the second time there is a trans shooter in the thousands of different school shootings that have taken place from the exact same worldview that these guys hold. Now, I don't know, once again, because I don't even know if I can trust Kash Patel. Okay? Yeah, we don't have a full confirmation that they're trans yet.
two of those that have been killed in that mass shooting in Minneapolis at the Annunciation Catholic Church were indeed children, ages 8 and 10. They were killed in the pews. Here's what we know about the shooter. Early 20s, police believe, a male, apparently no history of violence, was firing from outside of Mass. As you know, if you attend a Catholic school or church, Mass is a part of the week's plan when going to school. And that's exactly what's happening on the first week of school for these kids. They were attending morning Mass, celebrating the first day of school. And that's when gunshots were.
Mass shooters are always socialized male. That doesn't mean anything. It's also not, I mean, more often than not, but this is a ridiculous thing to bring up right now. And also, Once again, there is an exception. It's not always white men. It's not always white teenagers. But it is always some psychopathic far-right group that they are a part of, especially as of late. Okay? Every single one of these people that have done mass shootings, like every single one of these high-profile mass shootings, school shootings, have always been done in the past 2 decades by someone who literally is just a straight-up insane Nazi. It doesn't matter what their background is, okay? It's not always going to be a white guy, even though in the overwhelming majority of instances it is. But there are unique incidents where it's not a white guy. There was a mass shooting that took place where it was a black guy who did it. A black, I forget, he was like 20 years old or maybe even a little bit younger, okay? And also on top of that, there was a white female as well that also engaged in this. 3 of those last shooters that were not white guys were still a part of the same Telegram groups that believe in some insane version of esoteric, satanic Nazi ideology that is constantly egging each other on to try and find groups of people that have significant mental health complications to get them to egg themselves on to get them to do a mass shooting. And then they turn around and deify the people that have done those mass shootings.
Or heard. Apparently, this gunman parked in the parking lot was shooting from the outside of the church, shooting through the stained glass windows into the pews. We can confirm now at least 17 injuries, 14 of them children, 2 in critical condition. And
Given enough time and the school shootings will cover all demographics, of course, because it's the most American thing, okay? Of course, it has already. There was a mass shooting that took place. It was an old Asian dude, okay? It already has. Obviously, the common denominator here is guns, okay? And ease of access to an arsenal of weapons. There are more guns in circulation than there are people on U.S. soil. You will never be able to convince me that this is not a uniquely American problem directly as a consequence of that. It just is. You look at other countries where there are more guns in circulation, and you will find, even with strict regulation, like Switzerland, okay, when compared to other countries where there are not as many guns in circulation and more stringent gun control, there are more homicides with a gun and more gun violence broadly in places like Switzerland than its other immediate neighbors in the European continent. Okay? So even though Switzerland, due to immense regulation, has a far lower gun violence rate than the United States of America, it still has a higher gun violence rate than other neighboring nations. That is because when you have guns, suicides go up. When you have guns, the likelihood of gun violence goes up. That's it. There is no comparison to knives. I think America has a higher rate of knife violence than the UK as well, if I'm not mistaken. So that's not even comparable, okay?
Now we can confirm that 2 of those that were killed were children, ages 8 and 10 years old. The mayor saying these children were in mass.
Rule 9 of the 11 satanic rules of earth: do not harm little children. Please don't conflate Satanism with insane right-winger groyper Nazis, bro. Dude, I'm sorry, okay, but your meme religion, mostly just practiced by edgy atheists, is not the main point of contention here, okay? Jesus Christ, dude. Holy shit. You find a guy for everything in this community, okay? You got polyamory defenders. You got Satanism defenders in the chat. Like, please just stop. That's not about Satanism. I'm not trying to, dude who takes like a very clear meme religion that's supposed to be like a actually religion to own the Christian zealots, takes it far too seriously all of a sudden.
They were praying they should feel safe. He is so to the community. He's asked that everyone stand by these families, love them, support them, that this act of evil should never happen. The police chief then coming forward, Brian O'Hara, talking about this unthinkable tragedy, that the shooting happened at the Mass, that was taking place, marking the first week of school. It was a deliberate act of violence against children and worshipers. We're going to do everything we can to make sure this never happens again. Let's bring in our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas. Pierre, heartbreaking and sadly something that is happening far too often in our country.
It truly is, Kara. It is exactly the nightmare scenario.
Yes, the Order of Nine Angels does not affiliate itself with the Church of Satan, okay? Because the Church of Satan and the satanic religion broadly is just a fucking Reddit atheist religion, okay? It's a meme religion. What are we talking about? No, these guys are Nazis first and foremost. They're white nationalists, white supremacists first and foremost. Oh my fucking God. They're not like the fucking gay polycule guys that go and protest in the Missouri City Hall because trans people are under attack or some shit. That's what most Satanists are. Nine angles, sorry.
That my sources
not
was
nine
describing.
angels.
Let's put this in perspective. Just around 8:30 local time, a man shows up from the parking lot armed with a shotgun, a rifle, and a pistol. And the early information is that he indeed used all of those weapons and began firing indiscriminately through the windows into the congregation, those children and the people there attending Mass. The shooter is described, as you said, as in his early 20s. They're still working on motive. He is dead, according to the police, of a self-inflicted, they believe, self-inflicted wound. This is part of an ongoing spate of shootings in public places. And we are increasingly seeing shootings that are sometimes political.
Swiss person here, it's not true that Switzerland has more gun violence according to numbers, and the French or the Germans have more gun violence, homicides in Switzerland. There is no way that is the per capita argument. I think you're pointing to the totality. I've never seen data. I've never seen data that says Switzerland has a lower gun violence, a lower rate of gun violence as opposed to France or Germany. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the data has changed. And for the record, Switzerland does have incredible gun control. Make no mistake. I'm also factoring that in when comparing Switzerland, that has a higher rate of gun ownership than many other European countries, when comparing it to the United States of America. So there is a way that you can actually avoid having these kinds of fucking insane incidents. But I'm pretty sure, I might be wrong. I would love to see the data. No, per capita, look up per capita. I would love to see the data because I've only seen the exact opposite of what you're saying. Send me your data and we'll look it up.
In nature. Minneapolis just saw a horrific tragedy just weeks ago.
No, that's a homicide number. Gun violence is not just homicide. Gun violence is not just homicide. Albania also has a super high rate of that because they have a super high number of guns in circulation. You're not factoring in suicide by gun. That is also a part of gun violence. Like any sort of incident that involves firearms goes up. If you look at the gun violence per capita, like all gun violence, which of course includes suicides as well, or accidental discharge as well. That might be the mistake. Suicide is a mental health issue, not a gun issue. People will just cut themselves or take pills, etc. Huh. Interesting. So why is it that suicide rates are significantly higher in states that have less gun control and more guns in circulation in the United States of America than states without? That's cool. Perhaps it almost feels like if you have a gun and you are suicidal, then you have an easier method. I don't know, just think. Do we fight fucking wars with knives? No, we fight them with guns. Do we fight wars with pills? No, we fight them with guns. You know, guns are pretty effective at killing. There are numerous points of failure when people attempt to commit suicide by other means. And there are even points of failure with a gun too, but it just like fucks your life for permanently regardless. But
involving members of their state legislature who were shot down and family members. So law enforcement, FBI is on the scene. We have the FBI director, the attorney general, president of the United States, all commenting on this. But we're in the midst, make no mistake, of a concentrated period.
Yeah, the research on suicide shows you need to have barriers to suicide that take the time to bypass so you can talk yourself out of it before it happens. Guns are much more effective more quickly than other options. That's precisely the reason why the Veterans Affairs Office and their solution to the 22 a day veteran suicide number was literally to offer them a low-cost, gun-safe lock and key. Literally. Because they were like, all right, well, we can't stop you guys from having guns. You love guns, okay? But here, you can get a box with a lock and key, and then you put your family photo in that box. So then you look at that family photo when you take your gun out to kill yourself, and in the process of, like, you know, opening the box, maybe you'll be able to reconsider and not do it. That's unironically the VA solution to veteran suicides, by the way. I'm not even fucking joking. That's how fucked this country is, bro. That's real. That's real. There's a fucking ad for it. I've shown it multiple times on this broadcast. How fucking insane is that? Yeah, they used to run those ads on Twitch. I'm a vet and was getting ads for that on Twitch.
Of mass shootings and horrific assassinations, if you will.
Let's bring in our chief investigative reporter as well, Pierre, Aaron Katursky. Aaron, you've now been putting the numbers together. This country witnessing gunfire.
Yeah, the guy in the pickup under the tree. Yep.
At schools nearly twice a week on average. Into investigators about yet another shooting. Tell us what you know.
Those statistics compiled by Everytown for Gun Safety, which began as an advocacy group after the Newtown school shooting in Connecticut in 2012, Kira. So the country that is awash in guns is also seeing gun violence on average nearly twice a week at the nation's schools. And this year's school calendar beginning very much the way last year's ended, with the sound of gunfire and the frightening images of survivors running for cover. The year ended with a mass shooting at Florida State University in Tallahassee. This one begins here at the Annunciation Roman Catholic Church in Minneapolis, where children were shot while praying during Mass when the gunman approached with 3 different weapons, firing from all 3. The police say there are shell casings everywhere outside on the sidewalk, on the grounds. It's possible the shooter may have made it inside the church, but it's not clear he fired while inside before taking his own life with one of his weapons, according to police.
You are right. Death by gun is high in Switzerland, right after the U.S. due to suicides. But when you look at the violence itself, is lower. I'd love to provide you with the numbers. No, okay, that doesn't matter. I'm making a larger point about gun violence and gun death, chatter. Okay, yes, Switzerland already has higher regulations. I know. But when you have more guns, you tend to use them. And there's only one use for a gun. It's to kill. It's to end organic life, okay? Yeah. And the less regulation and less restrictions you have, the higher the fucking gun deaths are. Including all firearm deaths, including self-harm. 1.1 out of 100,000 in Germany, 2.9 per 100K in Switzerland, and then 13.9 in America.
Right now, Kira, the police are searching a vehicle that it's believed the suspect used to drive to the church. They're also going to be conducting other searches, they said. They did not release a name, but they have a name that they're working with so they can perhaps dig into social media. You heard the police chief say there's no record of extensive...
Like, we pick and choose certain things, right? Cars are incredibly fucking deadly, okay? Vehicles are incredibly deadly. But you can't ride your gun to work, okay? You can't do commerce with your gun. And I do think we should lower the number of cars that are out there as well by offering robust public transit alternatives that are low cost and much better for the environment. Okay? But even then, that's a lot of people's like immediate counters. I've had this back and forth a million times over, motherfuckers. Let me tell you, okay? I know this conversation. I've debated it all the way into the fucking ground. I didn't like arrive at this position accidentally, okay? I've looked at every single talking point. I've seen it from every angle you possibly can. Ultimately, it comes down to Americans really like guns. Americans need commodities that they consume that they believe are cultural signifiers, and guns is a commodity. Guns are a commodity that is perhaps one of the most important political identities that Americans hold on to. Okay?
Criminal history. They'll be talking to friends, relatives, and other associates to see if they can establish a motive for this particular shooting that killed 2 children, ages 8 and 10, injured 17 other people, most of them children as well, including 2 now in critical condition. Kira?
And just looking at the pictures here of parents hugging their kids, knowing that their children are okay after witnessing this. And Aaron, both my kids went to a Catholic school. They had Mass on Wednesday mornings. I'm getting flooded now with text messages from families, even our family priest that has been at those, has participated in those Masses on Wednesdays, and apparently this is reverberating across the country. The church is talking about it. Families are talking about it. They're praying about it right now. I want to take it to our Chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce. Mary Bruce, I know you've been hearing from the president, as well as the White House is also monitoring this and sending out prayers and love as well.
Well, Kara, I can tell you we've just learned that President Trump has spoken with Governor Tim Walz on the phone. The president offering his condolences. Governor Walz thanking him for his support that he has offered so far. We haven't heard from the president in person yet. He's spending the day behind closed doors here at the White House, but he did take to social media. The president saying he has been briefed on the tragic shooting in Minneapolis, adding that the FBI quickly responded, that they are on the scene, saying the White House will continue to monitor this terrible situation, adding, please join me in praying for everyone involved. The president here is expected to shortly be sitting down to lunch with the vice president. J.D. Vance also posting briefly online, we're at the White House monitoring the situation in Minneapolis. Join all of us in praying for the victims. But as you heard from the mayor there in his heartfelt remarks saying, praying isn't enough at this point. These children were quite literally praying when they were gunned down. An 8 and a 10-year-old, 8 and 10, shot while praying with their classmates in a church at school. As you mentioned, 14 other children injured, 17 in total. We are also hearing from members of Congress, members from Minnesota, offering what has become sort of the routine statements, offering their shock, sadness, and support. And from those Democratic members of Congress, calls again for more gun reforms. Of course, we have said this far too often. There simply is not the political will in this town, and there hasn't been for some time now, to take meaningful action on gun reforms. President Trump casts himself as a tough-on-crime president right now in Washington, D.C. Members of the National Guard are here on the street. The administration has taken significant steps to take control of the Metropolitan Police Department here, but he has not so far thrown really the weight and the heft of his administration behind doing something to meaningfully address this epidemic in this country. And
So will Alex Jones say that this didn't happen, or did he learn his lesson? Okay, he doesn't need to say that anymore. Everyone else says it for him. You got to remember, when Alex Jones said it, he said it at Sandy Hook. That was a unique moment, okay? That was a unique moment because, people were shocked by it. We live in the post-Sandy Hook world. Nobody gives a fuck anymore. This is as commonplace as, the first bell when the school season starts, You have to realize, Americans do not care about this. They will go, oh, this is so sad. But we are an ultra-violent nation. It's a terrifying country, honestly. Yeah, this is it. And this exists in my mind forever. In retrospect, Sandy Hook marked the end of the U.S. gun control debate. Once America decided killing children was bearable, it was over. There is no amount of violence that our children in school will take that will cause Americans to turn around and say, okay, we got to do something about these guns. It's over. It's done. That's it. That's precisely the reason why all the conversations revolve around door control, revolve around arming the fucking teachers and shit. We are reaching a point where we'll get called woke for wanting gun control, man. We have already passed that point, I think. Look at Gaza. We just don't give a fuck. We literally don't care. We are an incredibly violent country. And eventually that violence finds its way back to our doorstep. Okay? If you think that violence is just going to stay over there, you're wrong.
I think, as we've been saying, it is the horrific reality in this country that every single parent has to worry about school shootings, especially this time of year when every parent holds their child's hand and walks them to school for the first day. They wonder, will they be safe? Is my child coming home? That, unfortunately, was not true for these children here today. And now, once again, the spotlight will be on this White House, on Washington, and on this administration, wondering what, if anything, Washington is going to do about it. It is a question of a couple weeks in this country, and yet we continue to see these horrific, awful events. This one, once again, impacting small school children simply trying to enjoy the first week of class. Kira.
Mary, you're a parent. I'm a parent. Walked my daughter to the bus stop last week, took my son to school this week. He goes to a Catholic school. Again, my phone blowing up from Catholics across this country, in particular Catholic schools, worried now about morning mass, Wednesday mass that happens as a part of these schools. I want to bring in our contributor, also former FBI agent Brad Garrett. Brad, a male gunman, according to police, early 20s. And apparently no history of violence, yet showing up with 3 different types of weapons, parking his car in the parking lot, and just firing off, as the police chief said, like a coward, into the windows, the stained glass windows, as those kids were in the pews praying during Mass on this first week of school.
So I think what you have is somebody who planned this, Kara. I think likely he picked this particular day, knowing it's the beginning of school. Now, he may know that because he attended that school at some point. We'll have to see. Takes 3 weapons. It'll be interesting to see what's the history of those 3 weapons, if it follows most mass shooters. And by the way, most mass shooters don't tend to have much of a prior record as to did he get these weapons lawfully. And you have to go to the driving force behind him to do this. What drives mass shooters? It's nothing new. It's rage and feeling powerless and feeling like you are the victim, you, the shooter, are the victim, and you're going to take your revenge out on others. I find it interesting that he fired outside the church, and still, we're not sure about inside, but it sounds like a vast majority, if not all, of this shooting occurred outside the church. Did he not want to really face the people that he's harming? Maybe. The whole idea of potentially a smoke grenade that the police chief mentioned, that also would suggest that he doesn't really want to look at what he's doing, or, use smoke to also disorient people. So that's another component of this. But, the question is, we ask this every week, it seems like now, how do you stop something like this? And the answer is you don't unless you know about it. And that really goes to how much.
Yeah, we need more surveillance. Just kidding. They were on our radar. Okay, I will say this also. America is the only country on the planet where members of law enforcement actively demand that everyone have their guns at all times. There is no other country on the planet where you have members of law enforcement go, no, of course everybody's got to have guns. What are you fucking talking about? Like every other place, they're like, no, this makes our job much more difficult. It puts us in harm's way. We can't conduct regular policing when under the assumption that every single person has a fucking arsenal that they can deploy on us. It is so crazy. That's how cooked we are, that the dudes that normally would not want everybody to be armed, the cops, are the ones who are also actively petitioning so that everybody has weapons. It's great. Only country. Yeah, because cops don't want to be the ones responding to the shooting, just some random guy. It just doesn't make sense.
Energy can we really put into identifying people that are troubled? That doesn't mean they're going to be a mass shooter, but people that need.
One of the craziest parts about this is like when motherfuckers are like, I feel so safe walking in insert European capital. And it's like, or Japan. Yeah, a big part of that is because it's nowhere near as scary when you just know no one has a gun. Like, why can't we have this here? It's like, I don't know, maybe because you keep saying everybody has to be gatted up out the fucking wazoo.
That are going down a dark path in things that they say and weapons that they acquire.
They don't say that about Europe, though, in like London and Paris. Yeah, those people are fucking insane, by the way. As someone who frequently visits both London and Paris, let me tell you, infinitely safer than many parts of America, both by statistics and also even vibes. Okay? Yeah, people are dumb as fuck for saying that. If anything, one of the most common memes is about how like Americans make fun of like hoodlums and shit in England. Yeah, he's all fucking shankies. Oh, fucking shankies, mate. Yeah, run your pockets, lad. Yeah, the roadman goes crazy, fam.
And I understand that people don't want that infringed upon. But if you want to stop at least some of these mass shootings, you're going to have troubled folks in your community. Law enforcement is not really geared up to do that from a time and energy standpoint and training standpoint. They do their best, of course, but it's a real key component because clearly we just don't have the will as a country to do anything about the gun laws.
One time there was a shooting in front of my house and my neighbor called the MPD. When they arrived, we asked them what took so long. And he said, oh, we specifically wait to try to avoid actually confronting the shooters. Sick. Great. They don't even do the job conservatives claim they should be doing. Yeah, of course not. By the way, that's legal. That is constitutionally protected. Okay? A police officer's a duty to render aid or refusal to render aid and put himself in harm's way is unironically constitutionally protected. Did you know that? The Supreme Court ruled that cops don't actually have to put themselves in harm's way at all, even if something is happening in front of them. Cops are not obligated by law to help you. They do not have to risk their lives. Cops are also protected when they feel scared. Not only do they not have a right, not only are they not obligated to protect you, but if they feel scared, they can shoot and kill you legally. Like, that's it. It's just about their feelings. It's not even a joke. They can shoot someone running away, unarmed, doesn't matter. If they feel like that person is a threat to both the cops or the community in general.
And with 20 million plus AR-15s and 400 million plus weapons in general across the country, it just makes it, sadly, too easy for people like this troubled 20-year-old to commit these mass shootings.
And it's something our Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas has been covering for years. Pierre, you've done documentaries, you've done specials, you've done investigations, and once again, here we are talking about access to guns. We still don't know.
He's not wrong. There's 400 fucking million weapons in circulation in a country that has 330 million population. It's true. Yes. The case is Gonzalez, Town of Castle Rock v. Gonzalez, which the court ruled 7-2 that the town and its police department could not be sued under USC 1983 for refusing to enforce a restraining order, even though the refusal led to the murder of a woman's 3 children by her estranged husband. A similar ruling was made in the Descheny versus Winnebago County, which involves Child Protective Services, called the Department of Social Services in the case, failing to protect a child from a violent parent. This was used as a defense, I believe, in that famous incident where a dude got fucking stabbed in a New York subway in front of 2 cops, and they just did nothing. Okay? And then the guy was like, well, okay, I'm going to sue the cops. We're not doing anything. And then they were like, nope, we don't have to do anything. Luckily, the dude survived. Joe Lazito, is that his name? Yeah, the dude got stabbed in the head, I think. It's fucking insane. Anyway, let's just get back to this.
How this gunman got access to these 3 different types of weapons. But we sure know, state by state, the laws are different. How these gunmen get these guns. They get them in various ways. They make them. They learn how to make them off the internet. So much to learn about this gunman.
Kira, what we see here is the country has this ongoing and continuous question. Now, in general, violence, gun violence and crime has been trending downward. But that's cold comfort to the people who are experiencing incidents like this. And what we do know is that no matter what the trend tends to, has a violence and gun violence chronic issue that happens over and over. Whatever the data is, there are hundreds and thousands of people who are shot in this country. And the fact that they increasingly and routinely occur at churches, schools, movie theaters, malls, any place that is considered a soft target, that is where these troubled people go because they want to kill as many people as possible. And the question becomes, over and over again, exactly what is the nation and what are people prepared to do about it?
And let's not forget about the mental health crisis that this country faces as well. Pierre, thank you. Thank you to everyone that helped us contribute to our breaking news coverage today. Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce.
Yeah, it's just like they're like, oh, it's unavoidable because then they can make it. They can make it in their.
The UN says
They can make it in their backyards, 3D printed. Anyway, and there's a very clear indication that this person had indecipherable politics, which is common in these insane terrorgram groups where they're not like they don't comfortably slot themselves into like political ideology that you would expect. Some of them are just like straight line neo-Nazis, Trump supporters, but then they're like, oh, we just got to take matters in my own hands and stuff like that. But there are a lot of these people that, yes, we're going to watch the Richie Torres video. Yes, of course. Are you kidding me? This is the greatest episode of the Adam Friedland Show to date. But no, indecipherable politics in the sense that, like, if you look at the order of 9 angles, which is one of these terrorgram groups that has actually been responsible for numerous incidents, including the last black school shooter and the female school shooter, which are unique in that regard. If you remember, there was a black white supremacist who was in these groups. There's also I did see the alleged Patriot Takes video that was resurfaced in this now deleted video. The alleged Minneapolis church shooter Robin Westman told supporters to vote Republican House candidate Brandon Herrera. I met Brandon Herrera at SHOT Show last year. He and I had a brief conversation, but we agreed on a lot of things. So y'all should vote for Brandon Herrera for president. Fuck those kids. I don't know if this is the actual.
Brought to you by BlackRock and ExxonMobil. Sponsored by Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yeah, it looks like it's the same notebook.
Brandon Herrera for president. Yeah, I met Brandon Herrera at SHOT Show last year. He and I had a brief conversation, but like we agreed on a lot of things. So y'all should vote for Brandon Herrera for president. And
yeah, there was the Trump shooter, if you recall, also had another gun tubers merchandise on when he shot Donald Trump. Not Ryan Ruth, the other one.
Vintage Warfare promotes love and peace.
Yeah. Herrera ran for the Texas district with Uvalde. Yeah, the other guy was wearing a Demolition Ranch merch. So yeah, I think, did Demolition Ranch quit YouTube after that, by the way? Yeah, Boy did a video with Herrera and then exposed Herrera, and they were actively harassed. Anyway, a 5th grade boy reportedly shielded his friend during the deadly Minnesota Catholic church shooting, laying on top of him to protect him from bullets. He was making sure I was safe. He got hit. One child is now hospitalized. The other is calling him a hero.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be okay. And then my friend, he was like laying on top of me, like making sure I was safe, and he got hit. So that was really brave of him.
And you have a nick on your neck?
Yeah, I don't even know what it's from. Kind of looks like debris or something.
But that came from during this?
Yeah.
How are you feeling? You seem pretty put together here, but it's got to be tough.
Yeah, I'm just like confused.
Yeah, I mean, shock. So yeah, I mean, look, a country that allows this to happen to its white babies, why the fuck would it ever care about it happening tenfold to black and brown babies overseas? You know what I mean? That's it. These things are intertwined. They are interconnected. It's just not, this is a part of the same systems of violence that happens. That's what I mean when I say, like, Americans don't give a fuck broadly. They would rather have unlimited, unrestricted access to weapons than to try to stop mass shootings from taking place in the one country where it happens with regular fucking frequency. It makes no damn sense. All right? Just something to consider. Hold on. There was another thing that I wanted to cover from this. Oh, yeah. Why don't we call these shootings terrorist attacks? Because they're not Muslim. Don't worry. They'll call it a terrorist attack if it's a Muslim doing it. The only thing that stopped this by having U.S. troops deployed in every city, the only answer, we're so fucked. I work at a community college. It should not be a job I have to worry about being shot at. Hold on. Doors open. Doors open. Okay. Did we ever learn more about Thomas Crooks? No, we just kind of let that go. But yeah, don't let a crisis like this ever go to waste. Because now Kash Patel wants to, I'm hearing that Kash Patel wants to actually cover this from the angle of like anti-Catholic terrorism, anti-Catholic crimes, and using this as an opportunity to like even further institutionalize trans people, further push them away from existing in civilized society. Fantastic. God forbid we look for real solutions, you know? Yeah. They're calling the most recent shooter in Minnesota trans to ignore the fact that there has been an organized group of far-right suicidal school shooters, and this person is very likely going to be linked to them as well. 964. Very good thread. Definitely tying the 764 078 cult, or 9 angles called as well. Not 07A, 09A. The Order of 9 Angles, which we've covered before when I was talking about Roblox. Because there was a fucking group that was a part of this Nazi Satanist / Islamic jihadist sometimes cult that wanted to do a hate crime or a mass shooting against like Christians. White dude whose name was like, I forget, it was like James W. Wilson or some shit in Texas, was a part of this fucking psychotic neo-Nazi cult. And he was talking about potentially murdering people on Roblox, murdering Christians on Roblox. And the FBI, no, it was what? Oh, Berger, sorry. It was James Berger. James W. Berger. This group has been, unfortunately, insanely successful in creating instances of terror all around the world. They're connected to an incident in Turkey. They're connected to numerous incidents, including these last two, when you had a white woman and a black man. Both were white supremacist Nazis, of course, regardless of their background. But here it is. Minneapolis shooter, most likely also a part of the Telegram right-wing grooming cult. Anybody who's been paying attention to the past patterns among mass shooters for the past decade can easily tell the above due to a number of commonalities. This is extra thick Jew gas. He's a smoke grenade. Order of the 9 Angles, 716 affiliated shooters ranging from Pekka Avunian to James Holmes to Roslekow hold a common set of beliefs and symbology that they cannot help but smear everywhere like feces. White text on guns, okay signs, private references. Here, the cross associated with Robert Crimo. Crimo, of course, like Pekka and Holmes, and Roslekow, another Discord to kill ruin who claimed to have been an MKUltra victim and a false flagger. All this has been covered in great detail elsewhere, especially by this excellent Parapower thread. However, there is another layer of interesting connections. The shooter had a forum account in which they announced the shooting 3 weeks in advance, notably Order of the 9 Angles symbology in their bio there. From there, I was able to find their Twitter account. Their Twitter account is quite something. You don't see many leftist shooters talking about soy cucks and claiming vat-grown meat is a Zog psyop. Nor do you find them following and being followed by Telegram pedophile types. Yeah. Oh, I forgot. A lot of them are also pedophiles too. They're Nazi pedophiles. What I consider to be the absolute nail in the coffin, though, is this post. Very opaque. Most people would miss this. It's a reference to a Order of 9 Angles, TOB, 764 Tulpa figure called Drill Sergeant Gray. Esoteric satanic Hitlerite types are fond of him. It connects into a whole nexus of beliefs. Drill Sergeant Gray, for a lack of a better term, a demonic tulpa of a gray alien that these losers immanentize to yell at them until they clean their rooms or shoot up a school. Part edgy LARP, part psyop, part psychosis generation mechanism. Oh, did I mention how Order of 9 Angles was a Gladio CIA operation? Did I mention how there are unusual connections to Russia? So many of these guys love their white Cyrillic text on their guns. Did I mention how the Christchurch shooter vanished into an Order of 9 Angles connected training camp in Ukraine? Did I mention how an esoteric satanic Hitlerist movement that was originally controlled by the CIA has spun out of control and now exists as 764, a shooter grooming network? Yeah, they have... this is like an international grooming operation to try to get people to do like ISIS-style lone wolf incidents, but at the behest of esoteric satanic neo-Nazism. Many of those groups, you would assume, are filled with actual, actual feds, But it turns out maybe this person was not on their radar. But yeah, the Annunciation Catholic school shooter thought that they were dying of lung cancer from vaping and other means and seemingly intended to commit suicide in the sanctuary. Initial assessment is this is another Order of Nine Angles, 764, Telegram Discord to kill deep event. The people that this shooter actually posted about all over the guns were all famous, unfortunately, famous neo-Nazi, white supremacist mass shooters. Pekka Eric Avunian, the Hitlerite Finnish school shooter. James Holmes, the schizotypal Aurora theater shooter who wanted to eat souls. Adam Lanza, Sandy Hook. Vladislav Rosiliakov, Bible-burning, abused son of a Jehovah's Witness, a member of the Claybald and Harris fan clubs online who shot up and bombed the Kirch Polytechnic College. He also talks about the ammo being sponsored by BlackRock, ExxonMobil, PBR, and right-wing congressional candidate and gun-tuber, the AK guy, Brandon Herrera, for president. Describes meeting Brandon at SHOT Show and says, sorry to her family, but fuck those kids. This symbol on Westman's clip is the Cross of Endlessness, which is perhaps most affiliated with Highland Park parade shooter Robert Crimo III, an occulted Discord to kill rapper who alleged he was a product of MK Ultra and retroactively claimed this was a false flag. Yeah. Oh, swell. Another, in air quotes, trans anti-Semitism manufacturing free Palestine false flag for good measure, smacking of the Joel Osteen church shooting on Super Bowl weekend in 2024. There's also Anders Breivik reference in there. Robin was a neo-Nazi edgelord for sure and probably has Order of Nine Angles, digital underground neocultures link as hypothesized. Says Hart Breivik. How does this job not depress you? I don't know. I see death and destruction every fucking day of my life. So, yeah. So, Westman's inspo shooter Robert Crimo Creepy Hours music video in which Cross of Endlessness flashes hypnotically across the screen. The Twin Cities appear to be a bit of an 09A hotspot. Highly interesting in the context of the Vance Belter assassinations, as shown by this knife attack perpetrated against a homeless woman by a 20-year-old member of the Cell SR1, nicknamed Corrupt, weeks ago. It's all like people that are fucking incredibly bored and incredibly twisted online that find themselves deep in the fucking esoteric neo-Nazi movements and inevitably make their way into groups like Terrorgram that just get fucking lasered, that basically laser remove the remaining wrinkles from their brains and then get urged. It's like there are many such incidents of this kind of behavior online. I've talked about this before with like lolcows, right? There are a lot of very desperate, very lonely, oftentimes neurodivergent groups of people that go into these forums and specifically target other people who are also neurodivergent and marginalized and try to egg them on into doing shit to ruin their lives. There's a process called lolcowing, right? And back in the day, it was relegated to the darkest corners of the internet, whether it be like 4chan Poll or Kiwi Farms and the like. But nowadays, it's actually serialized and systematized, and it's like in broad daylight. People do it on TikTok to like that World of Shirts kid, all these people, right? I've never fully understood what motivates a person to behave in this kind of cruelty, but I guess it gives them a sense of power in their lives by going after someone that is going after someone that's like even worse off than they are and like desperately try to fuck up their lives together. It creates a sense of community and whatnot. The Terrorgrams operate almost in a similar vein, but it's usually the people that are in those groups that are egging each other on to commit acts of terror, rather than finding a target and then grooming said target or ruining said target's life by doxing them and trying to actively harm them, right? So this is one step removed from lolcowing. It's like even worse than that, clearly, even though lolcowing is already incredibly fucked up. And yeah, the lolcowing goal is like also suicide too, usually. Like Kiwi Farms has a running directory, like a board of trans people that they've actually caused to kill themselves. And they see this as like a scoreboard, you know? They see this as like the ultimate goal of lolcowing for that forum specifically. But these guys also have a similar interest as well, where their goal is to deify people who kill themselves in incredibly violent ways. That's right. This is the type of shit that this is the type of shit that's happening in some of the worst some of the most evil corners of the internet. This is highly evocative of Natalie Rupnov, the Nazi femcel Wisconsin shooter linked to Order of Nine Angles, who, if I recall correctly, communicated on X and elsewhere with an account from Russia or Eastern Europe, and who was also mutuals with the Antioch, Tennessee, Black Hebrew Israelite Groyper shooter. Both of them referenced Avinin, like Westman here. I hope Twitch doesn't auto-ban me for this, but it's doing a hero to them. Yeah, that's what they consider it. A lot of these kids are super fucked up, super lonely. This is not to like, you know, offer them any sort of protected cover. They're fucking scumbags, right? I mean, they're demonic entities pretty much. But if you want to understand how people find themselves in this side of the internet, they're deeply lonely. They're desperate for a sense of community. They're angry. They're resentful. They feel as though society has fucked them over. There's often like some serious issues that they have, both in terms of mental health, but also beyond that, there's like there's an anger and resentment that they have towards specific subgroups in society. For many, it's like migrants, trans people, things of that nature, and they go down this like right-wing pipeline. You can start off by watching Ben Shapiro videos, right? But then you inevitably find yourself seeking out more and more insane political shit, like more and more insane esoteric political shit, and your circle gets increasingly smaller in the process. And you, at the tail end of this, you arrive at the pedophilic Nazi satanic esoteric cult, such as the Order of Nine Angles. This is like the literal end of the spectrum. I don't know anything that's more depraved than that. Like, it's so depraved that like the Klan is actually not as depraved as these guys are. Okay, this is the extreme edge of the far right Nazi spectrum. This is so extreme that these guys are like, they're beyond the Groypers, even though the Groypers are very close to these people and are actively Order of Nine Angles and whatnot. But isn't he a leftist? No, fuck no. What are you talking about? He's talking about like gas the Jews and wrote the N-word and only fucking highlights white supremacist neo-Nazi mass shooters. What would ever cause you to think that this person is even remotely leftist? Asman is saying they're leftist? Ugh. Yeah, of course Asman is saying that they're leftist. The shooter fucking highlighted Anders Breivik like Asmongold has in the past. If anything, Asmongold is closer in their worldview to this fucking shooter than anybody else, okay? Of course he's going to say it's a leftist. Also, he's not very intelligent. So that's probably part of the reason why he immediately took whatever Fox News narrative he saw and went, yeah, based. Not Fox News. He just keyword searches Twitter. Don't forget. Nice. Of course. Anyway, the goal in these sorts of incidents is to basically flood the market as fast as possible with like misinformation that directly targets your ideological opponents before the dust is settled and people realize, no, that's not the case, actually. It's the exact opposite of what you said. Your observations about the shooter's mental programming are not explanations. Are you trying to come across as a mental health expert, not trying to rile you? I'm confused by what you're putting out about this kid. Wait, what? They're not explanations. It's just what I have analyzed from every single other incident that looks exactly like this. I don't think you have to be a mental health expert. We're talking about like what I am talking about their point of radicalization, their journey through radicalization. Okay? I'm about as close to expertise on that front as you're gonna get. I've never said I'm a mental health expert, but as far as a path of radicalization that this shooter took, it's identical to previous ones. That's why I'm pointing to Terrorgram and these other like insane neo-Nazi movements that exist all over the internet. And part of the reason why I'm doing that is because there are dumb fucks out there who immediately go, oh, the trans leftist. So obviously it's important to address the truth in this circumstance.